and pledge. And we're really excited today to have James Candlin with us, former Chief of Staff and volunteer in District 1. James, thanks so much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dear Father, we're thankful to be gathered here this morning. We pray for guidance and direction. We're indeed grateful for our elected leaders, both the Board of Supervisors and all those who have been elected here at Maricopa County. We pray for guidance and direction. We pray for wisdom. We pray for unity. We pray for friendship and all that they do. We recognize that tough decisions have to be made at times, and we pray for the guidance to be with them as they do so. We're thankful for our communities in which we live. Please bless those women and men who struggle to make ends meet. Please bless those who are seeking housing. Bless those who might have needs in their family with health and with other needs. Please bless them. We're thankful for the men and women who serve our country each day and put their lives at risk. May they be blessed with direction and guidance and with thy spirit. We love thee, and we're indeed grateful for all the many wonderful blessings of life, for this free country that we live in, the opportunity to partake in democracy and government. We're thankful for this opportunity to be here today, and we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you very much, James. Really appreciate that. Madam Clerk, if you would call the roll, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand that Supervisor Barney and Supervisor Gallardo are struggling with the traffic this morning. Supervisor Chukri.
Can't believe they're late, Madam Clerk. Here. But I'm sorry for being late, Mr. Gates.
No problem.
And Supervisor Hickman. Here. Chairman Gates.
Here. Thank you very much. Let's see, I guess I'm not seeing animal care and control here. Okay, all right. Well, maybe they're caught in the traffic.
That could be.
So maybe they'll join us a little bit late here. At this point, we're actually going to go ahead and, if my colleagues don't object, we're going to move to the planning and zoning portion of the agenda. Jen and Darren, if you guys could come on down and join us. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for all that you do today. At this point, we're going to go ahead and consider the consent agenda, which is PZ 1 through 3, PZ 1 Dynamite Horseman Supply, PZ 2 Banner Boswell Medical Center, and PZ 3 Sunstream Solar Energy Farm. Do I have a motion on items PZ 1 through PZ 3?
I have no speaker slips, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Motion to approve items PZ1 through PZ3, Mr. Chairman.
I will second, since you have no one else to do so. Second, Mr. Chairman.
Reluctantly second
Mr. Chairman.
the motion. All right, we have a motion and a second. If there is any discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, that motion passes unanimously. And now we'll consider the regular portion of the planning and zoning portion of the agenda. We have item PZ4.
Mr. Chair, again, no speakers on this item?
I have no speakers on this item,
Great.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, there's just a couple things that probably still need to be worked out. So I would like to continue this item to the January 30th meeting.
All right, so we have a motion to continue then. Do you have a second?
I second that, Mr. Chairman.
All right, motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, the motion continue passes unanimously. And yes. Thank you very much. We understand you're caught in the traffic out there as well, so thanks for joining us. And we're gonna, again, I'm gonna continue to move forward here with the agenda, and then we will back up here at one point. So next item here is the liquor license applications. And do we have any comments? Anyone who would like to provide comment here on items 5A through D?
None, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Well, in light of that, is there a motion to approve these items?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve items 5A through D.
All right. Thank you very much, Supervisor Chukri. Do I have a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Second. Thank you, Supervisor Hickman. All in favor of items 5A through 5D, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. The next item is item 6. This is the impact statement hearing for the proposed Country Club Estates Irrigation Water District delivery. Do we have any comment slips on this item?
Mr. Chairman, we do. We have 4 people who have registered only in favor, but they do not wish to speak. That's Dan Jarvis, Carol Dodson, Ralph Dodson, and Jody Menzel. We have one person who does wish to speak in favor, and it's Gunn McKay.
All right, thanks for joining us, and come on down. Yeah, right there at the lectern.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate you letting us take a few minutes. We have a great irrigation district group. I mean, it's a great neighborhood, and irrigation is an integral part of that. It keeps our lawns green, our trees green, and really elevates the value of our property. So we're anxious to have that system. And as the system gets older, it does need repairs, and who's going to pay for it? Without the district, it's simply voluntary, and it tends to fall on the shoulders of those who are generous to take care of the whole system. And so the main reason we need it is simply to be fair and to everybody involved. I don't have anything else other than that. We're anxious to get it organized. We've got some great people who are willing to volunteer and carry the load as much as they can, but it's time that we get a district if we can. And SRP has been very helpful in helping us put this together, and I wanted to acknowledge their help, and Laura, is it Laura? Madero as well. They've been very helpful in getting us put together. And again, thank you for your time. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them, but that's all I have.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Any questions from my colleagues?
Other than his first name is awesome. Gunn.
It's,
That's
it's
no one
kinda-
messed with you in high school, did they?
It's strange, but you won't forget it.
Yeah, that's right. No, I think it's a great name. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to make a motion to approve.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Chukri. Do I have a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right.
Good luck.
Mr. Chairman, do we still have Mr. Gallardo on the phone? Did he, Mr. Gallardo, did you vote on that particular item? Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks for that clarification, Steve. Yeah. Yeah, and Supervisor Gallardo, if possible, if you could just speak up a little bit louder. We're having a little problem hearing you here. All right, next. Our next item is, we have item 7, which is, these are transportation items, 7A, road file number 5926, and item 8 is the patent easement abandonment, road file number PAB-0076. Do you have a motion on items 7 and 8?
Motion to approve items 7 and 8, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Hickman.
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Chukri. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, we heard you loud and clear that time, Supervisor Gallardo. Thank you. All right, And while the sheriff is waiting on another item, and we thank him and his team for his patience, we have additional items for the sheriff. So certainly welcome to come and address the board if you'd like to on any of these items. We have number 9, agreement with Arizona Diamondbacks. 10, accept state criminal alien assistance funds. 11, donation of a quarter horse for mounted unit. And 12, cash donations for MASH, Friends of the Phoenix Public Library, Phoenix Animal Care Coalition, and Renee Barrios and Juliet Spence. The board will now consider items 9 through 12.
Mr. Chairman, move approval through items 9 through 12, but I do have a quick question on item number 9. And I know
Yes.
that the sheriff's office is here, and we've budgeted, or we think that the cost impact or the billed impact is $732,225 for security at Chase Field. Like, a quick question is that the approximate number of what the Diamondbacks paid last year, and we just kind of go year to year on about the same amount?
It's slightly higher,
Okay.
because this year, now that we're not working through the stadium district, we added direct costs to this contract in addition to just personnel expenses. So anytime we use horses or any kind of equipment there, we've added that to the contract. We also added a 3% administrative fee that we didn't have last year.
Okay, well, let's hope they get to the World Series this year. Okay,
Mr. Chairman, if I might?
Yes.
I think,
Supervisor
Mr.
Chu?
Hickman, your concern is probably about being revenue neutral.
yeah,
And I don't disagree. I was just sharing that with, with the county manager. The sheriff and I have had many conversations about how we can be more resourceful, especially when we're dealing with the private sector, which is terrific. And I understand when Fountain Hills and other parts of my district and other districts where the sheriff provides police services, that that could be a little tricky. But I think in this case, Sheriff, I would hope that we are moving in that direction to at least be revenue neutral, and
great.
would concur.
Yep.
Perfect. All right. So any other questions? Right, if not, then I would entertain, oh, yes, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chairman, I believe you only have a motion. I'm not sure there was a second.
Yeah,
Oh, I'll second the motion. I apologize.
wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chukri. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. We have additional items from the Sheriff's Department and then also the school superintendent. 13 is an IGA with Arizona Game and Fish. 14, one-time addition to fleet abandoned trailer. 15 is a permanent addition to the fleet cargo trailer. And 16 is a revocable, non-exclusive use license agreement with Luke Air Force Base. 17 from the school superintendent is an IGA with the Governor's Office of Youth, Faith, and Family. The board will now consider items 13 through 17. Madam Clerk, sorry. Just gave you a promotion.
Thank you so much. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, just one quick correction to item number 16. At first, there was a thought that this might require a unanimous consent vote, but it has been determined that that's not required, so we do not need to take a roll call vote on that particular item.
Thank you for that clarification, Madam Clerk. So with that, we'll consider items 13 through 17.
Mr. Chairman, very happy to move forward and, for approval items 13 through 17.
All right, we have a motion. Thank you very much, Supervisor Hickman. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Thank you, Supervisor Gallardo. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Now we're moving on to some air quality items and animal care and control. Air quality 18 and 19 are IGAs with the Yuma Elementary School District and the Yuma High School District. And under animal care and control, number 20, New Hope Agreement. 21 is a kennel permit, and 22 is a PetSmart Charities Grant Agreement. There's going to be another one later, but this is an additional generous item from PetSmart. So the board will now consider items 18 through 22.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of items 18 through 22.
Thank you Supervisor Gallardo. Do I have a second?
I will second, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you Supervisor Chukri. All in favor of items 18 through 22, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, that motion passes unanimously. Next, we have items 23 through 26 from the Budget Office. Number 23, second quarter pay for performance adjustment. Under Emergency Management, 24 is an IGA to assist cities and towns with emergency operations plans. 25 is an IGA with City of Phoenix for software support and maintenance. And under Finance, number 26 is tribal gaming funds from the Tohono O'odham Nation. The board will now consider items 23 through 26.
Move for approval items 23 through 26, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you Supervisor Hickman. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you Supervisor Gallardo. We have a motion and a second. All in favor of items 23 through 26, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. Next, we have under Human Resources 27, revision to employees assisting and supporting employees policy. 28 is new and updated market ranges. And then under Human Services, we have 29 through 30, which are amended IGAs with the City of Scottsdale and the Arizona Department of Economic Security. 31 through 32 are agreements with the Arizona Department of Housing, and 33 is funding from the Arizona Department of Education. The board will now consider items 27 through 33.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you Supervisor Chukri. Do I have a second? Thank you Supervisor Gallardo. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. Moving right along, Parks and Recreation, number 34 is a non-binding MOU for conceptual design of El Rio Lake. 35 under Procurement Services is a contract with Surveillance Security, Inc. Under Public Health, 36 is additional funds for contract with Arizona Department of Health Services, and 37 is administrative correction to amendment with Desert Mission. The board will now consider items 34 through 37.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of items 34 through 37.
Thank you Supervisor Gallardo. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Thank you Supervisor Hickman. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. Next, further under Public Health, we have 38, agreement with Crandall and Association Consulting Dietitians, Inc. 39, amend the student rotation training agreement with Capella University. 40, amend the IGA with Arizona Department of Health Services. 41 and 42 are IGAs with the Arizona Department of Health Services. And the State of Arizona for Arizona Athlete Opioid Initiative. And 43 through 45 are purchase orders with the Arizona Department of Health Services. The board will now consider items 38 through 45.
Motion to approve.
Thank you Supervisor Chukri. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you Supervisor Hickman. We have a motion and a second. All in favor of 38 through 45, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That passes unanimously as well. Takes us to some transportation items. 46 is amended agreement with Maricopa Water District. 47, agreement for Levine South Mountain Transportation Study. 48, amend the bid and award for roadway construction on MC 85. 49, bid and award for high-friction surface treatment project. And 50, annexation by the town of Queen Creek. The board will now consider items 46 through 50.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of items 46 through 50.
Thank you Supervisor Gallardo. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you Supervisor Hickman. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That motion passes unanimously. We have some additional transportation items, 51 through 58, new and changes to traffic controls. 59, contract to perform scoping assessment study services. And 60 is easement, right-of-way, and relocation assistance documents. The board will now consider items 51 through 60.
Move for approval items 51 through 60, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you Supervisor Hickman. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you Supervisor Gallardo. We have a motion and a second. All in favor of items 51 through 60, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. Now we're moving on to Board of Supervisors. Items 61, reappointment of Kim Pacianti to the Travel Reduction Program Regional Task Force. 62, resignation of Jeff Schwartz from the Housing Authority. 63, appointment of Wickenburg Councilmember Christy Bedouin as primary representative, apologize if I mispronounce that, and David Stander as alternate representative to the Community Development Advisory Committee. And 64 is an Industrial Development Authority item, resolution approving issuance of bonds for the benefit of Franmar Affordable Housing LP. Good to see another affordable housing project there. The board will now consider items 61 through 64.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve with a comment.
Yes, please.
Second.
All right, thank you very much, Supervisor Hickman. Supervisor Chukri.
I just wanted to thank Kim Pasante for her graciousness in coming back on to the Travel Reduction Program, as well as thank Jeff Schwartz for his service on the Housing Authority.
Excellent, thank you. Any other comments? All right, if not, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of items 61 through 64, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. Next, we go on to setting of hearings. Clerk of the Board, number 65. We have road de-annexation from the city of Buckeye. Under planning and development, 66. We have several planning and zoning cases. Merrill Gardens, Anthem Cottages, Ephus Ranch Tower Project, Arabi, thank you. Thank you. Great to have you here, Supervisor Hickman. Laborde Property, Northern Crossings Commercial and Residential, and Rancho Cabrillo Parcels G, N, U, and Q, and finally Seasons at Riverside. The board will now consider items 65 through 70.
Motion to approve items 65 through 70? Yeah, through 70, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Hickman. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Thank you very much, Supervisor Gallardo. All in favor of items 65 through 70, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
A delayed aye, excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Perfect. All right. Those pass unanimously. Thank you so much. All right. Now we're going to jump back in order. And again, thank you to the sheriff and his team for his patience here. And we're going to consider, this is from the addendum, item A1, which is agreement and acceptance of a capital grant from PetSmart Charities, Inc. Sheriff, thank you for your patience and thanks for joining us today.
Mr. Chairman, as the sheriff comes forward, I apologize for my excuse tardy.
No problem. That's
We
right.
had a great event in East Valley with the governor, and I was unable to slip out, so.
Absolutely. We appreciate you being there to represent the Board of Supervisors. Thank you, Supervisor Barney.
Sorry, Sheriff, for my delay.
As a good partner to the county, I'd be happy whenever we have a presentation, critical vote, we will send transportation to come get you in the future to make sure that you can
I should have
avoid those
asked.
traffic
It was slow on the
challenges.
60. I should have thought of that, actually.
Although I am concerned that Supervisor Gallardo was driving hands-free and safely, but thank you very much for this time.
If you could make sure that transportation would have Mr. Barney sitting in the back of a patrol car, that would be ideal for your safety and his.
Well, fortunately, with the approval of that request for a helicopter, we could always make even more fluid arrangements. Thank you for this time. This is where I begin on the serious note. Thank you for this time, and the time has been dedicated to speak about this issue. As you're all aware, the law enforcement community has always been invested in investigations related to crimes against animals, not only for their safety, but because there's a direct link that ties perpetrators who commit crimes against animals to crimes against humans to considerable severity. Because our office is very active in this field and we investigate a high volume of crimes against animals on an annual basis, it's important to also speak to the fact that those animals become evidentiary. And that's a cold term to use, but it is factual. And because they are evidence and they go through different circumstances, whether it be abuse or neglect or even in sometimes whether it is puppy mills or other factors, they can have a high level of aggression or a high level of fear. And it requires a unique skill set to work with them as we care for them, because they are our responsibility. So the Sheriff's Office, for the better part of 2 decades, has been invested in this. I'm supposed to give there's Rachel over there who's going to be the Vanna White of this presentation. So next slide, please, Rachel. Thank you, who did a phenomenal job. So for those who have not visited our MASH facility, it currently exists at the First Avenue Jail, which is an antiquated, unhealthy, unsafe environment that has been adapted to care for these animals. And as you can tell, it's quite noisy. And that is just a norm there. That is not the issue at hand, but it just gives an example of the environment itself. But as I stated, the MASH unit was established about 20 years ago. Our objective is not only for the care of the animals in our control, but it's also to find opportunities to create a bond between our inmate population and the human population, along with the animals, recognizing that it promotes health for both. We have a strong history that indicates that inmates who have worked in the MASH unit and been responsible for the care, providing compassion for these animals, that we believe that there is a direct link that promotes rehabilitation, has even promoted opportunities in the private sector for those who lack the skill set but learned a new trade. Because these animals, unlike other shelters, are not readily available for adoption, they stay in our care for considerable lengths of time, in some occasions as long as 1.5 years to 2 years. That creates a whole unique dynamic, which meaning that the environment has to be designed specifically, not so much for a shelter in a cage, but for a socialization opportunity. Through the history of MASH, for the nearly 2 decades, we have taken all different types of animals, not just canine and feline, but we've taken in birds and exotic animals, rabbits, as you can see, and equine. So the capacity since 2014 to 2018, you can see there's right in the range of about 1,500 animals in total. We have one canine who was with us from August of 2007 all the way through April of 2016 before we could finally, adopt that animal out. The cruelty at the MASH, the 64 dogs that we currently have, excuse me, I said cruelty. Currently at the MASH unit, we have 64 dogs. 11 of those animals are adoptable. The other 53 are not yet adoptable, either because of socialization challenges or because there's still evidence. We have 102 cats, all of which are adoptable, but they're currently living in an environment that's quite challenging. The reason we're here today is to speak about the opportunity to do something that is unique, that has great benefit for many factors, but quite frankly is necessary. And I've preached before that if we're going to be in the lane of providing any services as a law enforcement community, we have to make sure that we do that not only effectively, but appropriately. And the current environment is not appropriate for the needs of these animals that we care for. So it has been my vision for quite some time to work with private funders to find a way to finance and build a new facility at no cost to taxpayer dollars, that it would be 100% through the generosity and kindness of organizations or community members to build a facility that would exist on the Durango property. We can go to the next one, Rachel. The objectives for this are to have a facility that not only is designed for the care, as I've spoke of, for these animals, but because it would be in close proximity of our inmate population, that we could create programs, some that currently exist, some that would evolve to this space for our female population, many of whom are mothers who are separated from their children and have the chance to now work with animals and learn skills and provide care and compassion. Our veteran population, many of whom deal with PTSD and other factors, that the opportunity to train or work with dogs, to possibly train them to become service dogs, while also working with them could address the issues of anxiety and other factors in their own lives. That we have a population of juveniles who are remanded as adults and to utilize these animals in their environment for positive health. And for our Mosaic program, which is those that are recovering from drug addiction, that there is a belief that through some of those in the health industry, that providing animals for those who are recovering from drugs helps reduce anxiety and help them to overcome those challenges. So if we were to build this new facility on site, not only could we increase the safety and security of the overall program itself, we would have more inmate population to expand the programs to treat those that I spoke of. The long-term boarding for these animals would be more effective and efficient. We'd be able to provide a working space for on-site veterinary care, so we wouldn't have to transport these animals. And we would be able to improve the accessibility to the public. And what that means is, could we create programs where we could actually have visitation for some of the inmates who work within the animal community, work within the MASH unit with the animals, so that we can reconnect them with their family members or children on somewhat of a regular basis. So in looking at this, as I said, it is my commitment to raise the dollars, and we have projections of what we believe it will cost 100% through private funding. You're well aware that PetSmart Charities is present here today. And I just wanted, for the sake of clarity, PetSmart Charities, although affiliated, are two unique entities. And PetSmart Charity has become our partner in this venture relative to assisting us in many ways. They spent their own dollars to bring consultants in to evaluate our programs, as well as the sustainability of a new facility, to ensure that if they were going to support an effort such as this, not only financially but otherwise, that it was not only for the best interest of animals, but it was promoting the human-animal bond, and that this program would be something that could exist regardless of who was running the facility, who were the supervisors, or who the sheriff was, that it is intended to have a long-term benefit for our community. And in evaluating that along in partnership with our staff, the opportunities to do something unique for the right reasons, privately funded at no expense to taxpayers, and to be financially and fiscally responsible, is all there for the taking. So as you can see up there, very creatively, reasons not to build a MASH facility. Our little feline friend there is giving you as direct an answer as you could get, which is there are none. So it is my hope that today we can move forward as a county with something that is special and unique for all the right reasons. So all the construction and capital costs will be paid for by public-private partnerships. All ongoing capital improvements will be paid for by the by the MASH nonprofit, which was recently created. So we have created a nonprofit that is designed specifically to bring dollars in beyond the point of the bricks and mortar for the future, so that if there are any capital improvements or challenges with the structure of the facility or other unique expenses outside the scope of our current budget for these programs, that it will be the responsibility of those members of our nonprofit to continue to raise money and to spend it in partnership with the county's needs for this program. We are committed to a financial commitment that remains the same as it is today. We've had that dialogue relative to understanding that inflation, other factors may be contributors to reevaluating costs, but that we want to stay within the same budget. And we will share our resources with our partners at MCACC when appropriate to ensure that the care of the animals and an effectively and efficiently running county is our #1 priority. The new MASH unit will expand our evidence-based programs, as I discussed, to benefit and reduce recidivism, which I know you're all passionate about. And the one factor that is the least discussed but probably most impactful is we have animals that are encompassing 3 floors and a rooftop of a building that is in downtown Phoenix that could be renovated potentially in the future, or other plans that your discretion that we could immediately make available once we can complete this project. And I believe that that is in the best interest of the county and the downtown area. So what I'd like to do now is give you an insider's look of what it means to experience what some of our inmates have experienced, because when you hear their stories, it's far more powerful than anything I can say today. So.
My name is Alina Carlise. I am a dog handler in the Valley. I went into jail pretty broken, and being at MASH helped me rehabilitate. Animal therapy, again, is just huge. And it was a delight working with all the other inmates and the officers there. I can't even say enough about the officers there who would provide us like counseling if we needed it, and just support. The MASH program itself helped me develop a sense of purpose. I worked hand in hand with the other officers and the animal care technicians along with our inmates, and it at the end of the day, when I got done with the program, I felt more self-worth than I've ever experienced. It gave me self-confidence, and it made me more determined to not go back to that lifestyle, to perhaps just better myself. Has contributed to my life in so many different ways, and has definitely played a huge integral part in my recovery. I've learned so much at MASH. It's difficult to find employment just being a felon. And it means so much to me that someone was able to take a chance on me and give me a shot. I think they save more than one life at a time. And it's not just the animals, because I truly feel that they assisted me in saving my own life.
That's what they call a mic drop, right? When you hear it from her mouth to our ears, sometimes things are just the right thing to do. And I want to be responsible as a sheriff to make sure that this is done the right way for the county's benefit as well as our community. And I am very, very respectful of what it means to spend taxpayer dollars effectively and efficiently to build sustainable programs. I did not intend to be the dog whisperer sheriff, but every responsibility that falls under my authority I take seriously, and this is one of many responsibilities that we need to do right.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Sheriff, for that presentation. And before I open it up to my colleagues for questions and comments, one thing I just want to sort of make clear for everyone, what we're doing here today is we're voting on an agreement that allows us to accept this money from PetSmart Charities. And there are a few final details that have to be hammered out. But today we're dealing with the essence and in large part this agreement here, but there will be just a slightly amended agreement that will come back to us at a later date. But we want to move this forward. We know there are timing issues here, and so I just want to make sure everyone was aware of that, and also to see if people want to address it or raise questions during their comments and questions. So with that, I'll open it up to any of my colleagues for questions or comments.
Mr. Chairman, I would
Supervisor
imagine there
Barney.
may be other comments, but when the moment's ready, I'd like to make a motion that we joyfully accept this generous contribution and really just say thank you to PetSmart Charities and their work. This is not something that's happened overnight. We've been in this business for 2 decades. There's plenty of reasons you could articulate as to why we shouldn't be in this business. You can't unring the bell. We're here. The question is now, what do we do to make sure that we're doing it in a way that's not just respectful of the animals, but actually, as the sheriff mentioned, putting into place, like we do across the entire enterprise, evidence-based practices that help save people's lives. And I think that we're all focused on smart justice. To me, this is smart justice. And it's smart fiscal planning to invite the private sector to come in, invest in what they believe in using their money, not the taxpayers, to build a world-class, state-of-the-art facility that we can be proud of and that we can use to help not just protect animals that have been victims of criminal activity, but actually bless the lives of people that are incarcerated and help create runways for success to help them find success when they get out of jail. It's not dissimilar from what the Hickman family does out at their farms, but we're doing it as a government, and I think that's really a positive indication of this board and the work that we do. The other thing that has just made it a no-brainer for me, this sheriff didn't pick this activity. This isn't about this sheriff or the former sheriff. This is about trying to figure out how to move forward in a positive way. What we have is the elected sheriff who is able to pick what he does with his statutory duties and responsibilities that are framed within the Constitution as a starting point to figure out how to be effective. And he's gone out and he's said, hey, I will cap the exposure of the county to what it currently is spending in this space. And if it's not done this way, we're going to pay a third party to do it, or we're going to fund additional resources equal to, or in my mind, greater than what we're currently funding to our own animal care and control. And so while this is unique, and there's, again, an argument that could say, why do you want to be an outlier in this space? My response is, once in a while you are, and we didn't choose to be here. Now we're trying to figure out how to move forward in a positive way. And I think we've got an environment here, aside from the cute cats in the picture that talk and whatever, I think there's a tremendous opportunity that we have here to do something that will set us apart and allow us to kind of, in the next iteration of what this will become, be remarkably better than where we've been, and truly set a model that will be unique. And so I'm fully supportive of it. I recognize there's a wide range of thoughts and opinions, but when the motion is, when you're ready for a motion, Mr. Chairman, I'd be honored to make that.
Thank you very much for your comments. Supervisor
Thank you,
Shukri.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. And regardless of what the sheriff says, this was all my idea. So
As all good ideas
glad-
are.
You don't want to wait till the vote
I'm
before you
glad
take
he
credit for it?
followed through on that. But you know what's interesting is, and I echo Mr. Barney's comments, and what we have said as the fourth largest county, soon to be the third, we're working on it in America, that how can we be the Amazon of government, right? How can we be agile, nimble, make these types of things happen? And I give Sheriff Pinzón a lot of credit, because this is exactly a case study of what we should be doing. It's a case study of having a true, we always, as politicians, talk about these private-public partnerships. What does that even mean? It means this, is what it means. And PetSmart Charities, who's here today, their generosity is wonderful. We just accepted, I think, $22,000 on top of what they've already done historically in our tenure on this dais. So I applaud you, Sheriff. I think there were some hiccups along the way, which I understand that we always have to protect against the unintended consequences, as the county manager and her team did, and I think we've overcome those. What you just stated, a couple of these issues are very innocuous, and it's just really wordsmithing. So I applaud you, Sheriff. I applaud your team. I'm excited about this. And if we talk about trend setting, this is what trend setting is all about.
Thank you. Well put from my colleagues over on this side. Supervisor Hickman.
Well, I think our sheriff knows I've asked some questions, and this is the first time I've seen this, and I do appreciate the inmate's testimony about saving a life, and I've had a number of years working with inmates, 22 years, as a matter of fact, and we actually have at our family farm, but that is a corporate interest that works taking care of our animals, but they are provided a job and they're provided a salary, and we hope that they gravitate on to become taxpayers with other people and good hard workers. It really does help solidify their resume when they get out there. You mentioned that you currently are running a program there at MASH to train people, and I heard her testimony that it probably saved a life. Do you have, now that I know that you've not been in this space long, but do you have real recidivism figures of your people that are working in the MASH unit and how they are graduating into society and keeping a job, or do you have figures where they've come out and they've still had to come back in? Do you have those figures?
No, unfortunately, we don't, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that this program ran, for the most part, on the heart of the employees, and we did not establish a baseline to say that we're going to account for these to determine scientifically the human benefit and those elements to it. So it is our plan, in working with some of our partners, such as PetSmart Charities and others, to conduct research as we go through this exercise, knowing that it feels good on our heart and our minds, but what is the return on investment? So as part of the development of this, we'll be moving forward to be more scientific in collecting data, determining the direct impact that it has on the reduction of recidivism, or if we still see factors of recidivism, what were contributors. It isn't just that as though this experience alone will keep them healthy. If they're addicted to drugs or other factors, what other pieces that are included in smart justice can be contributors to a more effective outcome across the board. So this would be one of pieces, but now, as everybody keeps referring to me as the newly elected sheriff, I'm not sure when that moniker falls off, but 2 years into it, it is my plan throughout the organization, as we've initiated, to be more data specific so that we understand what is effective and what is not.
Sheriff, I only brought that up just because
No, it wasn't
Just
meant as a
because you
criticism.
really haven't had time to put some of these things in place and reports that you would like to see, and I'm hoping and gratified that you'd be looking into that, because we are smart justice, and we are, all of us as a board, looking to make sure that we can empty our jails of workers that get back into the system, get back into the economy, and take care of their families. The second thing is, you mentioned that you possibly do have some programs working with our animal care and control, and you do share a space with them in a way they're your next door neighbor. Are you going to continue to look for pathways to fit inmates, or possibly a MASH type program that could actually work in our care facility, our shelter as well? Or is that, if we do this, is that off the table?
No, I think it would be short-sighted. Well, just so that I understand the question directly, it is my intent that this facility is designed to facilitate positive programs as a part of the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. But as a county, holistically, it would be short-sighted of us to not invest in other programs that benefit our community or the animal community in and of themselves. So shared resources, shared programs, creating opportunities where there is crossover is absolutely part of our forward thinking.
Okay.
But as far as the responsibilities with this facility and how it directly aligns with the mission of the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, and in discussions with those who believe that they are passionate about this and their investment, I'm a man of my word. So when I say that this investment from private funders to facilitate a program on behalf of the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office is in fact that, it will continue to be that as long as, as long as I'm the sheriff and responsible. It doesn't mean I'm be denying opportunities that are available. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to make a promise today that I'll break tomorrow.
Okay. And last question, because we have spent time as a board with this, with the MOU. I applaud PetSmart very much for coming to the table
Charities.
over and over and over again.
They just asked me to make sure they would, PetSmart Charities is an individual.
PetSmart Charities, okay. They come over and over again in support of our shelter system, and I applaud them wholeheartedly to bring a little bit of vision from the corporate world. And if there's any possible way, that I'm sure, as you are looking for funds to fund this ongoing and get it built, I'm sure all of us will rise to the occasion and try to help with that if asked.
Thank you.
But we were discussing an MOU, and I've heard we're at this time looking at this MOU or to take a vote. But are you saying there's still some changes? Is that what I'm hearing? There's still some changes that will have to be discussed?
Yeah, and I can address it.
Okay.
Just a couple of, I would agree. I think that Supervisor Chukri described them well as, wordsmithing or whatever, just to make sure that everyone is in alignment here with the expectations moving forward. But I would not think that it would be anything far afield from what has been provided in briefings in the past.
Okay, so no serious substantive changes, you think?
Yes.
Okay.
I would agree with that.
Okay, hey, thanks for being here.
And I'm sorry, would you agree with that as well,
Absolutely.
Sheriff? Okay,
Absolutely.
perfect.
Okay, hey, thank you, Sheriff.
Supervisor Gallardo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm very supportive. I mean, I think this is a great step in moving forward. I guess my question would be, what does the timeline look like, Sheriff, in terms of should this get approved, what happens next?
Well,
We have the
as
animals.
consistent with my commitment, it is, we have a projected estimate. We did our due diligence in advance to get an expectation of what it would cost to build the entire facility. And it has been my commitment. So step one would be, we would graciously accept an extremely generous contribution from PetSmart Charities. And that would give us the platform now, because we have several other funders I've already had discussions with, who I've discussed this project with, who are just waiting for the ink to dry so that we can come forward. And at the point, we will go through the architecture design as well as the programmatic design. We will scale it from, our optimum, what we would love to see, versus what would be the minimum facility that we believe meets these expectations and things that we're discussing, what the range is relative to the raise. And then once I'm able to raise 80% of that total number of wherever we may be, that would be the first stage that we could actually begin development, put a shovel in the ground. So it is my hope that within the next 90 days, we will have an exceptional gauge relative to how quickly we can solicit the generosity of our community to fund this properly. I would be in my vision and hope that within 18 months to 2 years, this facility will be a final product. It will be all smiling, taking a picture in front of it, and in the words of Oprah, you get a cat, you get a cat, you get a cat, you get a cat, and you get a cat, and we would even throw one in for you.
Thank you. First of all, Mr. Chairman, this is like, as stated, a very unique project that's in front of us. I know when it was first introduced, I know there was a lot of questions and a lot of thoughts, and I do want to thank our staff, Joy, and her team. I know there's a lot of questions, and they were able to tackle those questions and make sure that we were all on the same page as we move forward. So thank you, Joy, and her team and our chiefs. I know the chiefs are very involved as well. PetSmart Charity does great work throughout the valley on a number of projects. And when this came forward, I kept thinking to myself, how does this work? And I'll be honest here, I wasn't too familiar with the workings of MASH. I got a crash course over the last month. I knew of the program. I knew kind of the concept, but I've never really thought about it until over the last month that my chief and I started learning real quickly what the MASH unit does and how it operates and all that good stuff. I think this is a wonderful project to move forward. I would love to see how it develops and the different outcomes that come out of it. I think this is a win-win for everybody. We're taking a program that people have different opinions about, but I think we're taking a program and we're moving it to a next level. And we're bringing in great donors, private companies to come in and be part of it. And I do think that's a win-win. I'd like to see the final language as we move forward. That's important. And it's always important to see the details of any final document, but I'm extremely excited. I want to see this move forward. I want to see how it develops. I want to see the outcomes. I thank PetSmart Charities for everything they have done for Maricopa County and for many other great organizations across this great state. They do wonderful things, and they're involved in so many different programs. But this one is very unique, and I do look forward to seeing it move forward. I want to see the outcomes. The whole smart justice and recidivism part of it is near and dear to the heart of mine and all of ours. We want to get people not behind bars. We want to get them on the straight and narrow. We want to give them a productive life. And if this helps out and we're dealing with animals that for the most part may not be able to be adopted right away, we're giving them an ability to be adopted, I guess retrained and put back into our community with loving families. So that's always a good thing. So, Mr. Chairman, I look forward to seeing the final product. I look forward to seeing this groundbreaking ceremony. I'm sure we'll be invited.
Absolutely. Cats, rabbits, anything you want to take home with you.
All right. I'll bring a horse or something. But nonetheless, Mr. Chairman, I do look forward to seeing this program move forward. I look forward to seeing this project all come together. And once again, thank you, PetSmart Charities, and all the other different funders that are coming along the road in the near future. So.
Thank you, Supervisor Gallardo. I want to echo, what my colleagues have said here. We're so grateful to PetSmart Charities. This really is, like Supervisor Chukri said, this is public-private partnership. It is a bit of cliche, but this is what we're seeing. I think this is a great example of smart government and being focused on smart justice. So thank you, Sheriff, for your leadership, and again, your willingness to go out and obtain this funding so that our taxpayers don't have the burden of this, but yet it's a project that actually gives great benefits to our public and to our citizens. So it's really exciting, and you touched on it in the slides. I love that this is going to open up additional opportunities on our downtown campus because I think that building is an impediment right now for what that campus could be. So I'm excited about that. I think that's an additional side benefit. I think Supervisor Barney earlier mentioned a desire to make a motion. So
Chairman, on the condition that you would take the cat off of the screen, I think it's an intimidation tactic. 1 foot away with the So with that concession, I would be delighted to make a motion that we accept this grant from PetSmart Charities and move forward to a final agreement that will bring this great project out of the ground.
Thank you, Supervisor Barney. Do I have a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Chukri. We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? If not, all in favor of item A1, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much, Sheriff, and your whole team. And again, thank you to PetSmart Charities. We really appreciate it. All right, so now we will jump back in to the regular order here. And if I'm not mistaken, we are picking up on 67 through 70. I think we actually had a motion to approve through 70, so I think we're good there. So we'll move forward to 71. These are clerk of the board items. 71, abstract of the property valuation roll. 72, canvass of elections. 73, duplicate warrants. Item 74, minutes. Item 75, Head Start monthly report. And item 76, November 2018 donation report from the Sheriff's Office. The board will now consider items 71 through 76.
Motion for approval of the consent agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Barney. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Supervisor Gallardo. We have a motion and a second. All in favor of items 71 through 76, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Now we're going on to additional clerk of the board items. Item 77, administrative correction to a parcel number. 78 is civil penalty appeals. Item 79 is settlement resolution of property tax cases and claims. And item 80 is tax abatements. The board will now consider items 77 through 80.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of items 77 through 80.
Thank you, Supervisor Gallardo. Do I have a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Hickman. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. Next, we have a couple of addendum items, and I'd like to handle those separately then. So if we can just handle item A2, Human Services, which is the agreement with First Christian Church of Mesa Incorporated. Would entertain a motion at this time?
I'll make a motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Item
Second.
Thank you,
that motion.
Supervisor Chukri, and thank you, Supervisor Barney. We have a motion and a second. If there isn't any discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, the motion passes unanimously. And this now takes us to item A3, which is Board of Supervisors item, and this is deals with the Maricopa County Recorder and the Elections Charter. And this, I can just give a slight bit of background on this and then open it up to any comments or questions from my colleagues on this. Obviously, there's been a lot of attention on elections in Maricopa County for the past couple of cycles. We had a audit that was done on the August 2018 election, so a lot of interest from our constituents, et cetera. We have some of us who are newer than others here on the Board of Supervisors. We have a new, still fair, I think we can still say newly elected, as the sheriff was referring to, newly elected recorder. So we've got people in different positions. And so what this item does is it's going to involve giving some direction to the county manager as we look forward to three things. And the first thing is the structural relationship we have as it relates to elections between the Board of Supervisors and the recorder. For many decades, we've had an agreement in place where essentially the recorder has been performing many functions that are provided statutorily to the Board of Supervisors. We're going to be looking at that topic and asking the county manager to look at that topic, as well as how we staff up for elections moving forward and into the future, and also what sort of technology, specifically tabulation systems, make the most sense in Maricopa County moving forward. So with that background, I want to thank Staff who has worked on this, want to thank the recorder and the recorder's office for their willingness to work together on this issue moving forward. And with that, happy to open it up to any questions or comments from my colleagues. Supervisor Barney.
Mr. Chairman, not much to add to your remarks, but thank you to you and to Supervisor Gallardo and your work with Recorder Fontes. It's taken a number of conversations and meetings that were happening right over the holiday period, which is often a busy time. But this is a critical issue, as you've indicated, and just thank both of you for your leadership and willingness to jump in. We've got some work ahead of us here, but I'm confident with this approach and the team that we have on the professional staff side, and with really some very capable people in the recorder's office who we've recognized before for their efforts. I'm confident we can bring forward a new elections plan that's going to be incredible. So thank you for your work.
Thank you for those comments, Supervisor Barney, and thank you for mentioning Supervisor Gallardo and his important involvement in bringing this together. I want to thank you, Supervisor Gallardo, particularly with your experience, your personal experience working in elections, and also your experience in the state legislature has been and will continue to be very helpful as we move forward with this effort. So thank you.
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for definitely your leadership. We hadn't worked much together, and then when we had our meetings with our county recorder, I was really impressed on how you moved forward and got things done. This is we came a long ways over the last 2 months, and we're stepping in an area that I don't think has ever been done before. Where we're actually looking long-term on how we're doing elections in Maricopa County. Kind of a strategic planning type session is the way I see it, where we're bringing all our experts together, including our elections experts, to come to the table and start thinking long-term. You know we have an election coming up in 2020. We have the presidential primary, probably, 13, 14 months away from now. But how do we move forward with elections, not only in 2020, but going 2025 and forward? How do we move forward to make sure that we're investing our resources appropriately, that we're looking at the staffing needs, we're looking at technology, we're looking at voting behavior? The way we do elections and how voters are casting their ballots are two different things sometimes. And so how do we kind of look at voting behavior at long term? More and more people are voting by mail. Less people are going to the polls. However, there's a lot of our constituents, including my own parents, who love to go to the polls. And I'm afraid to tell them that one day that there might not be a polling site, so they better start getting a little bit more familiar with voting by mail. Nonetheless, there has to be a thought process. How do we do it correctly? And I think this is definitely the first step. Joy has a great team of folks that would come together under her leadership and the board's support to be able to tackle what is needed to be done. I think we send a message to those at the legislature that want to make noise and just throw rocks that we're being part of the solution, and we're not interested in just throwing rocks and trying to grab headlines. We really want to look at elections and how do we tackle some of the challenges we have today, and how do we move forward with a plan that is beneficial to our constituency, beneficial to county government. How do we make sure that everyone has the right to exercise the most fundamental right they have, the right to vote? And how do we have a system that I think you stated yesterday on the phone, a first-class voting system? And that's exactly what we want, Mr. Chairman. And I think we all want that. So this is the first step for our team on the 10th floor, as well as the elections folks, to come together and really start having a dialogue in how we move forward. So I'm grateful for your leadership, and I know Supervisor Shukri tackled it towards the end of his tenure. So thank you both, and I look forward to seeing the outcomes.
Thank you again, Supervisor Gallardo.
Mr.
Supervisor
Chairman?
Hickman?
Not much to say on that. I think you guys have, again, thank you for both of your hard work in the most recent time, but I also thank you for touching on it a little bit, but I wanted to thank then Chairman Chukri, but Supervisor Chukri now for his hard work, and as well as Denny, because these conversations have been kind of swirling for a while, and you guys have all shown great leadership. It seems as we come up to an election, prior to even the last week, we all work together to try to make sure we pull off the best elections that we can. So thank you both for your recent hard work, and thank you guys, my colleagues, for continuing the conversation and getting things done to this point.
Well said, Supervisor Chukri.
Thank you, Chairman Gates. I think that when we look at this, Mr. Hickman just touched on it in a roundabout way, in that this is the same thing we've been doing since 2013. We've taken every single department and we've completely reframed it, reintegrated it. Animal care and control, I think, is one of the best work products of this body. Not just us, but our department heads and Joy and her talented team. Just a couple meetings ago, Joy had some cleanup issues with how some of our hiring processes were, and so we're constantly doing this. We have this unique nature with a second county elected individual in here, Mr. Fontes, doing this, and really it predates him in that I think we've needed to focus on this for a while. So what I am gratified by is the very fact that so many of our constituents across all 5 districts have come forward with information, that the talent of our 2 auditing teams that stepped in the fall to really look at how we can do things better. So as much as politicians want to point blame and point fingers, that's not what this is about. This today is a culmination of the work that I think Mr. Hickman just described of all of us, really, starting with Mr. Barney when he was chairman, and most recently with you and Mr. Garda, who have done a masterful job in the past weeks to say, how do we get here? How do we take the politics out? Which I congratulate Mr. Fontes on, too, because I think he wants to take the politics out. So to those who may be watching, to our constituents who have opined and given great impact in detail on this, we're at work. We are at work. We are going to work in tandem with the legislature, as you know, Mr. Chairman, to make sure that we're dovetailing together and that they're not operating in a separate vacuum as we, and that we now have some cross issues. So I think anyone knows, even if it's in the private sector or public sector, to rush to judgment, to rush just to make change for the sake of change is not what we do in Maricopa County, nor have we ever done it in the past 6 years, and we're not about to start. This change will happen. We know the timeline, and we will act accordingly. So thank you both.
Thank you very much for your comments, Supervisor Chukri, and your leadership. I mentioned it last week, but again, on elections issues, as chairman in 2018, you just did a masterful job, and now we're just going to build upon that and build upon what you all have done as a board from the time before I came over here. I think you hit it on the head so that elections in Maricopa County are best in class like other activities here. That's the goal, and it can be achieved working in partnership with the recorder, state legislator, and others. And so with that, I would entertain a motion to approve this item.
Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to make that motion to move item A3 and look forward to the outcomes.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Gallardo. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thank you very much, Supervisor Chukri. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right. Wonderful. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. And Joy, look forward to your work on this and your recommendations that will be coming back to the board.
Good luck.
And thank you again to the Recorder's Office for their work on that as well. We will now recess as the Board of Supervisors and convene as the Flood Control District Board of Directors. We have under Flood Control District F1 MOU for conceptual design of El Rio Lake, and F2 through F5 job order contracts with Rummel Construction, Inc., SDB Contracting Services, Inc., Nesbitt Contracting Co., Inc., and Cactus Asphalt. We'll now consider items F1 through F5.
Mr. Chairman, I move forward with item F1 through F5.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. A motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We have some additional flood control district items here. F6, the IGA for design, right-of-way acquisition, and utility relocations of the Rawhide Wash. F7, contract for on-call services with J.E. Fuller Hydrology and Geomorphology, Inc. F8 is minutes. And then on F9, easement, right-of-way, and relocation assistant documents. Madam Clerk, do we have a change on that one?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry, I need to activate my mic. On F9, the department has asked if we would withdraw items B, C, D, E, and H, as they do not have the final documents at this point.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So at this time, the board will consider F6 through F9.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion to approve that as just mentioned by the clerk.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Chukri. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Supervisor Gallardo. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
That was kind of a delayed
Yeah, there
stagger.
we go. It sounded unanimous to me,
Yeah.
though. Perfect. All right. We'll now adjourn as the Flood Control District Board of Directors and convene as the Library District Board of Directors. And we have one item here, and that is L1 minutes. Do I have a?
Approval, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Barney.
Second.
And a second. Thank you, Supervisor Hickman. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Perfect. Now, we will adjourn as the Library District Board of Directors and convene as the Stadium District Board of Directors. And consider, this is item S1, designation of officers. Do I have a motion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion in this regard to nominate you as chairman of the Stadium District. And in an effort to be bipartisan, I think that we've made such healthy progress this past year with the stadium, and we don't know what's around the corner. And, you know, for the first time, I think it would be nice to let and nominate to be the secretary of the stadium, Supervisor Gallardo, since it's in his district. This has sometimes been linked to the vice chair, but it's not that. Mr. Hickman is the vice chairman. But I think it would be good for Steve and also good for you to have him, as we start to look to the future of what might take place there if the Diamondbacks stay in that facility or if they decide to move on. Since it's in his district, at least this year might be a critical year. And this can change in the future, but I thought that might be a unique opportunity for Mr. Gallardo if my colleagues agree. So with that, I make that motion.
Thank you, Supervisor Chukri. Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'd be extremely happy to second that, Mr. Chairman. The Chase Field, the Stadium District, basically the big part of that district is the Diamondbacks and the stadium, and I think it's fantastic that Supervisor Gallardo will take the lead in his district. I appreciate the focus in on a very large business and a very proud business in his district. Has the ability to talk directly to him if further changes are needed.
I wouldn't be too excited, Mr. Hickman, about putting him here. Let's gauge the interest here. We have to see what kind of work product he brings to the table.
Oh, please.
Yes.
No, Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Supervisor Chukri and Supervisor Hickman. Those are kind thoughts. I still feel like I'm being set up. Nonetheless, no, I definitely would be honored to serve in this capacity. The district means a lot, not only for District 5, but the entire county. I think we all have constituency that attend the game. We all have taxpayers that have vested into the stadium. It has tremendous impacts to our major metropolitan city, not only Phoenix, but all our cities, but particularly Phoenix, and particularly the neighborhoods around the stadium. And that's always been kind of near and dear to my heart is how are the folks and the families around the stadium. affected by the stadium and how we make sure that they're being looked after and so on. So there's a lot of different areas there, but I definitely look forward to serving in this capacity, and it'd be a great honor. Thank you.
Supervisor Barney.
Mr. Chairman, to Supervisor Gallardo's question, am I being set up? The answer is yes. You're being set up to do more work. That's the reality. It's not like this is a great and glorious distinction. It just means that you're going to be more engaged on the front lines of some of these upcoming issues, and I believe you're up to the task. I think it is in your district. There's a lot of critical issues that affect the neighborhoods and other areas that you represent, and you've proven with respect to the elections issues that you're not afraid to work. And so I think I think others have referenced it, but I think it's a good thing that we're considering here. The other thing is the governor in his State of the State address on Monday, and he's did it again this morning, and he'll do it again at lunchtime in Westmark. He's talking about bipartisanship, and that means a lot of things to a lot of different people. But on this board, it means working together productively for positive outcomes, and I think we've done that. We're able to set aside those party designations, and it doesn't mean we always agree or see it exactly the same way, but we move forward the work of the county, and I think this is just one more indication of that. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I will second the motion. Not that there's a role for that, but I'm delighted that we're able to consider this today.
No, excellent comments. Thank you. And I would agree. If this motion passes, looking forward to working with you as the secretary of the Stadium District. Very important position. And Supervisor Chukri let the cat out of the bag a little bit, but I actually appreciate it. And some people don't know this. At the county, the vice chair is actually appointed by the chair. So I'm proud to have appointed Supervisor Hickman as my vice chair, and so I'm really looking forward to working with you in that capacity as well. So with that, then, unless we have any other comments, we do have a motion and a second.
And a second, and a third.
And a second, and a third, and a fourth. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed. All right, motion.
And by the way, Mr. Chairman, it does say it on the agenda that Mr. Hickman is the vice chair, so.
Yeah, fair enough, fair enough.
So the cat is out of the bag in print.
Yes, you're assuming people are reading the agenda. That is a good point. All right, now we will adjourn as the Stadium District Board of Directors and convene as the Housing Authority of Maricopa County. And the board will now consider item H1, resolution restructure of Maricopa scattered site revitalization.
Move for approval, Mr. Chairman, of agenda item H1.
Thank you, Supervisor Barney. Do we have a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Hickman. We have a motion and a second. All in favor of H1, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. Now we will adjourn as the Housing Authority of Maricopa County and reconvene as the Board of Supervisors. And Madam Clerk, it looks like we have here for item 81, which is public comment, looks like we have one speaker slip here, and that is for John Sellers. So, Mr. Sellers, if you'd like to come on down, we do have a clock here, so we have 2 minutes, and thank you for taking the time to come down and give us your comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Supervisor. I'm John Sellers, now living in Cave Creek. I think it's very important when government does things right, you let them know that. So I'm really here to say thanks to the Flood District staff and the town of Cave Creek engineering staff on the flooding issue. I'm engaged in a minor issue over chicken wire blocking drainage channels in my HOA. And the administrative law judge, part of the Department of Real Estate dispute resolution process, decided that she would go on a rampage over the flood control program of Maricopa County, and she issued a ruling that my HOA is not even in a flood district, a floodplain. I singled out the town engineering staff because I wasn't sure where the elected official staff were. I spoke to the council last week, but I did learn this morning that they've actually put on the agenda for tomorrow a whole discussion with the town council and the planning commission and the water district, because there's a HOA board member here who's been wearing a number of different hats as a town elected official. Ironically, the Senate's also debating, I didn't know this either, the Senate's debating the whole HOA OEH resolution process this afternoon. It's part of their sunset review. So I want to go along there to ensure this vital alternative to the courts for HOA members is not disturbed by unintended consequences. Because I think HOAs and flooding risk is actually almost the perfect storm in terms of municipal flood risk management. as Mesa, I think, maybe discovering it. Not misrepresenting. I also did not know that you have an ombudsman system. I'm very familiar with the Arizona ombudsman system. I think it's one of the great secrets of Arizona. It's fantastic. And I want to thank them as well, because it's kind of nice to know that there's people out there representing you, because I wouldn't want to be a drainage official engaged in public outreach. So thanks. The only action you need is to keep on doing what you're doing. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Perfect. That was perfectly timed. Thank you for your comment. We always love to hear good comments. Thank you so much, and thanks for being involved in your community. So with that, we have no other public comments then. So as we always like to do in our formal meetings, we will open it up for any comments on current events that any of my colleagues have. We'll start with Supervisor Gallardo today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and congratulations on the completion of your first formal meeting. Great job. Upcoming, so let me go back. A week or so ago, Chris and John and we sat down in my office. We started planning out the year. You know, what do we have coming down the pike? Anything from a community event to a special meeting or something that's coming down, and we start planning out our year, putting stuff on the calendar. And this upcoming weekend really is our first one, correct? It's Martin Luther King holiday. We started off with a breakfast on Friday that the city of Phoenix does annually. And then we have our great celebration on Monday, where we'll have an opportunity to walk. But District 5 will be working on Monday. We will be out at the Martin Luther King Festival, and we'll have a table out there to introduce folks to various county services as we do. But we're looking forward to a great year. This is our first weekend that we're going to be out there, but we look forward to many other different types of public events, and we'll be spreading out the good word of Maricopa County. So looking forward to it.
Thank you. Thanks for all you do out there in the community. Supervisor Hickman.
So I'm not going to mention the meeting because of its incredibly partisan nature that occurred on Saturday. But Supervisor Chukri and I were there. That partisan group needs to give county supervisors more time to speak. And the reason for that, and I hope you get invited to something like that and you speak well of us, because we certainly speak well of you. So the reason why I'm bringing it up is there was a little rumor in the air, and it was actually made solid that we're going to lose a colleague on this board. And I would just say that the preface to every conversation that was going on there was just how good of a guy Denny is, and how other government officials view the county board of supervisors as a dream team. And I don't say that to try to give any myself credit at all. It's just we're viewed as a board of guys that just do a good job with county government. And I consistently say, hey, we're happy to be in the spotlight at times just to talk about how well the county government works, how the agencies do their job, and how we protect uniformly taxpayer money in order to do it. So I want to thank Denny. I know we're going to have hopefully some other times to talk a little bit deeper about Denny, but I wanted to really take the time and thank all of you for that, because this county truly makes us look good in our jobs, and it's an honor to serve all of you.
Thank you very much. Joy?
Mr. Chairman, sounds like I should not talk and get to work on the task that you've given me, but we will move very quickly. I will get that committee impaneled hopefully before the end of the day. We'll get a work plan in place and diligently get about analyzing that issue and bringing something forward for your consideration.
Thank you very much, Joy. Supervisor Barney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Supervisor Hickman, for those kind words, but it really is, it's about the team, and the team is massive. It's 13,000 or more people with great leadership on the professional staff side, and it does make it easy to serve in a role like this when you've got those kind of tremendous resources beneath, working alongside and beneath this great canopy of Maricopa County. It's interesting you say that, because at the East Valley breakfast with the governor this morning. I was there representing the board, and he actually, in his questions, he took 3 different questions, and 2 of them, he specifically spoke and mentioned the county about the work that we do and the efficiency and the effectiveness of the county. He didn't have to do that. If he didn't believe it, he wouldn't say it. And it was interesting to hear you make those comments, and then to have the governor make those similar comments about this team. And this team is much broader than the 7 of us that sit up here on this raised platform, smiling down and acting like we do all the work and knowing that we don't. And so I think that I would just echo your comments and suggest that the governor, maybe indirectly, was suggesting the very same thing about the work that we do here. So it's great to be part of this team. And as the time approaches, I'll certainly miss my association with each of you, and we'll have more time for melancholy later. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Barney. Supervisor Chukri.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One detail Mr. Hickman failed to mention about Saturday is that was his birthday, and I pointed out to those in the audience that he was the most senior, not in time on the board, but, well, maybe I'll stop there. No, but it was Mr. Hickman's birthday, and it was well celebrated on Saturday, so happy birthday again to Mr. Hickman. And he touched on a topic that I wanted to talk about today, and that was Mr. Barney. I will be in an airport at our next meeting, still participating in this meeting, but I'll be in an airport nonetheless. And, you know, the mile markers in life, we seem to just blow right by. And in certain instances, you have to really slow down and take into consideration all that you've experienced and worked on. And so when Mr. Barney shared this with me last year, I'll admit, and many of you know, that, you know, as a Lebanese man, we are emotional, and I was very emotional about the fact that he was sharing with me that he was no longer going to be a part of our team. And Denny and I campaigned together, him more artfully than I did in 2012, and we were tied together because we were the 2 newest board members. Clint came on very shortly after, so I don't want to misrepresent that, but the 2 newest members trying to say, we believe in a new Maricopa County, and we believe in a great opportunity that we know this county has. And so it's going to be very difficult to not have him be at my side as we share our 2 districts overlap. But I know with what he'll be able to do with the East Valley Partnership will clearly not only take it to the next level, but I think we'll still have that unique golden thread, as I mentioned from time to time, of still representing the county, even in that new role. So I know celebration is to come, Denny, to bid you a fond farewell and congratulations on the great work you've done here. But I will tell you that I don't think we would have made the accomplishments we have the past 6 years if you weren't a part of what I agree with being the dream team. So thank you.
Thank you very much for those comments, Supervisor Chukri. I would echo those. Supervisor Barney, we're going to have the time to more sufficient.
You're not rid of me yet, Mr. Chairman.
That's right. Well, absolutely. And that's what I wanted to comment on was when you called me recently to give me your game plan and the path forward. I think I said to you that I hoped you were saying you changed your mind. And I was very disappointed that you hadn't, but I understand you've got great things ahead out there, but you will leave a hole. You will leave a hole here on this board. It has been an honor to work with you, and I hang on your every word. If I'm being honest, your insights are invaluable. So again, we could talk some more about that later. I wanted to make sure to thank our team again with all they've done with technology here in this room, elsewhere where we meet, and specifically getting YouTube up. So as a reminder for everyone, these meetings are now live streaming on YouTube. So Fields and your team, thanks for everything you're doing there, and it is really making what we do here more reachable. We're reaching out to people. We're meeting people where they are via YouTube. That's certainly where my kids are at, and I think many people. So thank you again for those efforts. And, you know, some comments have been made about this board and the quality and the intellect of the people up here. And I got to tell you, sitting in this chair is pretty darn intimidating. I really am humbled to sit in this chair. Thank you guys again for this opportunity, and I look forward to our collaboration and wisdom in the year ahead. So with that, this meeting is adjourned.
All right.